What is happening around you?
I see the council.
Mm-hmm.
The council surround me.
Okay. Welcome them back.
The council want to be more part of the session.
Mm-hmm.
They consider it to be a great importance, and
Absolutely.
their presence is very healing to me.
Mm-hmm.
I can feel that the council are around me in the room
Mm-hmm.
which I am in right now. And they are compacting themselves into this little space
Mm-hmm.
because her room is quite small at this time. But it's okay because they can do that. It's a little crowded in here,
Mm-hmm.
but they are all there.
And what does the council consist of?
It consists of 14 beings, including me and Apollo.
Mm-hmm.
There are seven masculine beings and 7 feminine beings, but we are both masculine and feminine at once.
Mm-hmm.
We are both, it is like we are each representatives of parts of the Godhead, parts that we serve. And the one that I serve is the flame of illumination.
Mm-hmm.
The bright light that represents the mind of God. Some represent the power of God, the love of God, the healing of God, the protection of God. We each have our areas that we are specialized at.
And did they have a message for us at this time?
They are just discussing.
Mm-hmm.
To move into the flow of which you are. Do not attempt to struggle. Everything that is God is real, and everything that is fear is unreal. And that is how you will determine what is of the matrix, what is false. If it's real, it's love. The unreal is the separation, which is just an echo or a shadow of what one is doing. It is not actually real. It is just something that is a learning tool for God to experience itself. There is no need to be afraid because everything is God.
So when we have questions with our human brains, what is the matrix? It's how can we understand that one further? Is it just to understand that that's love?
Well, it is like a playground. It's like a game. And some people get very caught up in playing the game. But after you play the game, you just go back to what you were doing before. You do not continue the game forever because you understand that the game is unreal. You do not play, for example, a video game for the rest of your life. It is like that. You just go into this simulation to play a game. And then when the game finishes, you don't need to play the game anymore. Maybe one day you will play a different game. But the real world is always calling. It's always calling out to be experienced. The game is fun. It's fun to play games. But what is real is always there. It's always calling out to be experienced more fully. There are levels of unreality. But what is real is, as we have explained, it is God. Or what you call source, or what we like to refer to as the flame within the all.
So does everybody have this flame within them?
All aspects of the universe have consciousness within it. There is no aspect of the universe that does not contain consciousness. For everything is conscious because everything is God.
Would you say that there's false people in the matrix?
There are some people that would appear real at first glance, but in actual fact, it is part of the mass consciousness. But that does not mean that they have no consciousness or that they have no no God in them, because that is not real. Even within the unreal, there is some real. So you can create these into being through consciousness, and they do not necessarily respond, but I am seeing that sometimes people do not realize how the matrix is constructed. There are some beings that are more in control of reality than others. And these beings would have, well, what you can call a God spark. So maybe this is perhaps what you are talking about.
Well, we were discussing the backdrop people. Who would that be in your perception?
These are a part of human consciousness, but which contains the God spark. Human consciousness contains this spark. However, there are some people in the peripheral vision that do not contain directly a spark within the body. They are just existing within the vision. However, there are things that exist within the vision that are not really there, and some things that are there that do not exist within the vision. Does this make sense, or is it very confusing?
It's very convoluted. It makes sense but it's confusing at the same time. I think it's
Yes,
hard for our human brain to grasp the whole concept as a whole.
yes. So they appear to be within the vision.
Mm-hmm.
However, when you have eyes to see, things will start to look different, because the God spark is what creates the reality. God is what creates the reality. So it is what is within you that creates the reality.
Okay.
As Apollo has said, reality is constructed from our memories every single day.
Mm-hmm.
So that is why it is of utmost importance that us and all of these beings, the Elohim, the Acturians, all of these beings are reaching the beings that have much of an influence on this structure, so that they can change it and realize that they are co-creators, because your beliefs, that is what keeps this in place.
Mm-hmm.
So if one is recognizing, for example, that UFOs and ghosts and all of these things are real, they are going to see what is really there.
So
And that
yeah.
is real. The veil falls off their eyes. So that is what I meant by the things that are not seen but do exist.
Mm-hmm.
They're always there. and the things that are there that don't exist. It's very, very confusing and convoluted. However, when you jump up dimensional levels, it will all start to make sense. When you see from a higher perspective, everything starts to make sense. You are the creators of your own realities. And this is where in ancient times people had recorded wizards and beings like Thoth doing amazing things, because it was in realizing that they created their realities, that they did things that one would consider miracles or inconceivable things. Like, for example, the miracles that Jesus performed. Once one recognizes the God spark and what you can do with this, how it changes the reality, how it can be used, then any sort of, well, it is like one becomes like a God in itself. That's why we say that you can have galactic disclosure if enough beings that are, well, creators, realizing that they are creator beings, and then they come together and decide within their God spark, their heart of hearts, that it is to happen. Then we could have it this year if you wanted to, but you would have to first realize the power that exists within you. You would have to do all of these things about realizing the power and what exists within.
So how do the starseeds influence the people within the matrix?
And they have this field around them that is like a giant bubble sort of a thing. They have a giant, I'm going to call it a toroidal field, because when you look at it from above, it looks like a giant donut, and it goes around. It's very, very big. And the hole in the middle of the donut is at the tip of their head, where the prana pole is coming in. And as you can see, well, what I am seeing, what I'm trying to show you is they are walking around and they are influencing things with their giant field. With these fields, they are walking around. And it is changing things. It is changing how things are in this matrix. So the only reason why the matrix would have any control was if these creator beings decided that was real, that was part of their reality. So as soon as the creator beings, which you are, realize that these things are unreal, When that just goes away, that cannot be in these beings' fields. The matrix starts to glitch and fall when what these beings believe is not what they want to program. You can believe the programming, or you can choose to not believe it. For example, lots of beings get scared. They get scared that they are going to do this to us. They are going to do that to us. And they are poisoning our water. And yes, they are poisoning the water. However, as a creator being, you can create miracles for yourself. And if you choose to be poisoned by the water, then you can choose to be poisoned by the water. I know this goes against a lot of what people are saying, but if you knew the potential of the flame within, you would never misuse it again. It is God that creates the universe, and you are God. So think about this carefully.
Yeah, I think it's very important to remember that, but I think the programming that keeps us feeling small,
Yes,
let's forget that, you know, we have a say in what happens.
yes. You do have a say in whatever happens. The dark ones have wanted you to feel small. And the dark ones are created beings onto their own, but they give their power away because they do not have access to this flame, because they have forgotten it. They have forgotten the very key that holds reality in place. So in a sense, they believe the unreal as well. They are their own worst enemies. They have forgotten that they are creator beings. They have forgotten the most. So they lord over you and pretend that, well, that is what dark magic is. It is an inversion of the original. Because they do not access this power within, they seek to control others that have power. They seek to control others that have more power than they, more power than that they perceive. However, they are in deep denial, and the flame within has been whittled away because they never believed in it. They have forgotten themselves. And in doing so, they have forgotten the universe. They do not see light in things. They do not see that things have, well, they know that they have souls, but they are interested in what they can gain from it, instead of figuring out what lies within. So they are toothless tigers. They never had power and they never will. And when you look the villain in the eye with your God's back, it boils away and turns into ash or water, like in The Wizard of Oz, when the witch melts away.
Mhm.
And you may realize that maybe it was just false all along. It actually had no power. Or you peek behind the curtain and realize that, like in The Wizard of Oz, that it's just a man sitting behind a curtain trying to scare people. Well,
Mhm.
isn't he an idiot? And then the illusion is ruined. He had no power all along. He was just a fool.
Very important to remember. You said in a past session that the solar flash would solve the matrix. What is meant by that?
Well, people will begin to do peeking behind the curtain.
Mm-hmm.
The solar flash is a way that the consciousness rushes up to meet the divine. And in doing so, you can see things from a much higher perspective all of a sudden. You can see all of that you could not see before. And you see behind the curtain. You see all of these. For some people, this will be very tragic because they have realized that they have been a fool.
Mm-hmm.
For some other people, this will be very beautiful. They will realize they are part of the all that is. And they will rise up, up, up to meet it. Whenever we look at the star, as we perceive the star, it's like our consciousness touches the star. And did you know that the soul of the sun and this sun in this solar system, it is connected to the central sun of the Milky Way,
Mm-hmm.
and is connected to the central sun of the universe and all of the suns. So when that burst of light comes out, it is like God is reaching out and touching you, like in that painting, but it's not an old man on a cloud.
Mm-hmm.
These types of depictions are not really what is going on. These are just remnants of what people remembered from the Elohim. And they perceived this to be God, but actually it is not the whole story. Yahweh shakes his head. They thought that he was God.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I'm only part of the greatness, the Elohim, we serve this energy, we serve the flame within the all. We serve the all that is. They got it mixed up. They thought that it was something outside of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They thought that maybe Yahweh was floating around on a cloud, telling people things. He laughs. Maybe at some point I did that. The council are laughing.
So when the matrix dissolves, all the people will dissolve as well?
No, no, no. The people won't dissolve. It's like the creator beings will go forth, the creator humans, the humans that have decided that they are creator beings, they will go forth.
Mm-hmm.
This is what is referring to as the harvest,
Okay, yeah.
and what you refer to as the NPCs or whatnot. They will have to trying to see if I can find the correct words. I do not want to say anything that would scare anyone.
Mm-hmm.
It is like they are not going to be there visibly anymore after this occurs. And well, I don't want to scare people, so the council are just discussing how we can explain this concept because it's very convoluted.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard to talk about this in the language that we know. Well, in the English language, there are no words for what is to occur. There is only just a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Some will walk forth. And it is like, this is very much, I'm seeing there is one person who is walking forth and all the illusions disappear around them. They flake off like a snake shedding its skin.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps this is where we are getting the wheat being separated from the chaff, the harvest. Yes, this is very much like this. The wheat gets separated. The diamond gets cut out of the coal. And I do not want to judge the others that are like the coal around the diamond. but this is part of the process. The process of evolution. God creates itself. There is a person who is going to be like a diamond. Maybe you would call that person the one who is going to ascend. The ones who are going to ascend. And as the core or pieces, the mud around, cut off the diamond, it goes forward and rises up. It becomes different. No more does it look like a piece of coal. It is now a diamond. It has changed. It has gone from carbon to crystalline.
Mm-hmm.
So you could say that this event, it is doing the same thing to humanity. It is turning coal into diamonds. And I guess the coal that is left behind, well, how can we say this? How can we, what will we do with this? They will have to learn in a different way, in a different time. But part of human consciousness will drop away. These people, these ones that you call the backdrop people,
Mm-hmm.
you will see them drop away because they are not part of the diamond that is going forward. It too sounds like this. It sounds very rude and very exclusion to these people, but if they do not have this, they are just part of human consciousness without having this within themselves, this actualization of the spark. So they are created by these beings that have the spark. And when this occurs, it's very difficult for the conscious mind that is sitting in the back seat. She's saying, well, hang on a minute. How does that work?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's very much a higher vibrational concept, and I'm trying to explain it. The diamond that is within the soul becomes prevalent. And that means that the coal is chiseled away. If you imagine a coal going around the diamond, but I'm not sure that this explanation is sufficient enough. But when you have the concept, I guess, when you ponder the concept of God creating itself and God creating the universe and God that is existing within you, then this becomes a lot more well, it becomes a lot more understandable. Because once this is realized, you will jump up into the higher dimensions, because that is where you belong. Am I making sense?
Yeah, you are. But it's still sort of, we'll have to ponder on how it makes sense to us in a human.
Yes. 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 It is hard to talk about it with words. I would prefer to show, but that is difficult. Maybe she, the lower self, can make some artwork afterwards to show this concept, but it might be a bit abstract. But then again, these concepts are quite far out for everyone. But to begin to think in this way is what is going to trigger you to jump up in consciousness even more.
Mm-hmm.
To begin to expand the thinking and to expand what is going on in the consciousness is going to expand the brain and is going to expand the very beingness and create it in a different way. Once you incorporate these new concepts into yourself, ponder about them. A good deal of pondering would be very good, and the council agrees. Or meditating upon this concept and how it applies to you specifically to everyone watching.
Mm-hmm.
This is a very personal journey. It is personal because we all have the God spark whom are interacting with today. And as God spark having beings, we are creating the universe around us. So this is very personal to you. It is the most personal journey you could ever go on.
Mm-hmm.
It is the journey of the flame within. And it starts by acknowledging that there is a flame there. If you believe the flame is there, it will prove itself to you in many, many ways. And you can get information from within this flame, as I do right now, because I am the flame as well. And I acknowledge this. This is part of my teachings, to know the flame within is to know the mind of God. And to know the mind of God is to know the flame within.
Would you say that people can interact with these backdrop people?
Yes, you can interact with them.
Would you have a relationship with them?
Well, they are part of you, so you can. However, beings of the flame gravitate towards other beings of the flame. So it's hard for me to talk about this because the matrix that the archons created, well, they did not create it, they manipulated the fabric of the reality, the blueprint that the Elohim originally created in conjunction with the sun. There used to be what you would see as not very many people on the earth sometimes. That is because it appeared that these backdrop people weren't there. And this was when the blueprint was as it is meant to be. So it is like human consciousness was messed up with this blueprint. And so I am trying to explain how to say this. I don't know if I'm doing a very good job. When the solar flash comes, it will revert back to what you would call original factory settings.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So it is like it's like a computer program.
Mm-hmm.
And when this happens, that will disappear. This need to have the matrix and a human consciousness that is trapped in its own illusions. And that includes the beings that they are trapped in their own illusions. The ones that do not realize that they have a God spark are going to realize it. And then all of these backdrop people they will not appear to be there anymore because there will be nothing separating you from what is really there. I am seeing that people will start to see, they will start to see how things really exist. Like once upon a time, my lower self had a dream about an event happening. And everyone could see their passed over loved ones again. This is very much like what will happen. They will be able to be perceived, the things that couldn't be perceived as much previously, but it's like my lower self always somewhat had this ability to see, to be able to actually see things that other people cannot see. Or some people can see these things when they see a ghost or whatnot. I'm talking about this sort of skill. It will become more and more that you will see things that are really there. This is how the earth used to be.
Mm-hmm. So what does the solar flash have to do with the cycles, would you say?
There are many cycles of the universe. One cycle leads into another cycle, which leads into another cycle. It's like there are cycles upon cycles upon cycles. Big cycles and then small cycles that exist within the big ones. The universe itself is a giant cycle, goes around in a circle. It's actually more close to an infinity shape. However, this continues up and up and up and up and up. Because when the old universe comes to the end of the cycle, then the new one is brought out. It is created again. It is burst out again. And so, if you could see, it is like a big infinity spiral. And at the center of this, there is a touching point. Well, it would be best to draw a diagram of this, but it's kind of difficult to describe it. So the universe begins with a big burst of separation. And that is how things are created. Well, not exactly. That is simplifying it. I will explain later on what happens when that happens. So it is created from a burst of separation. And then it continues on its way and loops back around into oneness again. From separation to oneness, from oneness to separation. And then we look closer at this giant cycle. And there are smaller cycles within this that go from separation to oneness, oneness to separation. And this is really the unreality coming back to itself and realizing that it is God. So all beings do this, all beings with the God spark. They come out of themselves and forget who they are, and then they travel back into themselves and remember who they are. And so we have these cycles as beings, and then the universe has this cycle as well.
Okay.
And so what we mean by shepherding the cycles, the angels shepherding the cycles, the angels have ascended past certain parameters of the game. So they watch on and assist. They assist and then they make sure that everything is going on the train tracks that it is supposed to go on. For example, when the universe is going out into separation, there are angels that provide this activation for it to go out. And then they reel it back in for when it comes back in. So everyone can have a good experience of the universal game. Everyone can get to do the things that they want to do in that particular universe and have the many, many experiences that they wanted to have. And so it would be very good the cycles are in alignment.
Mhm. So what would you say about the people that don't think that they have a soul and that they're just here, um, just being a meat suit, going about their lives? Is it because they haven't woken up to themselves, to their soul spark, to find the light within?
Yes, they have not begun to ponder this. They have not begun to realize what it is. They have not even begun to. This would be a great deal of separation and illusion.
Mhm.
This would be that pushing out. They need to realize eventually who they are. And if they can, well, the fact that they are conscious of themselves,
Mhm.
well, that is the meaning of consciousness, is it not? To be conscious of oneself.
Mhm.
So if we ponder the word, even the word consciousness, to be conscious of one's self, then, things will start to make sense. Once one becomes conscious of one's self.
Mhm. So the people that are living more into their body, into their meat suit, they haven't
Mm.
woken up to themselves as yet.
No, they have not begun to receive the instructions from within.
Mhm.
Mm. They have not begun to ponder, to become conscious of oneself. And if one is not conscious of oneself, can one really be?
Mm.
Mm. Yes. I encourage everyone to ponder about these things and decide for themselves what they really think.
Mhm.
Mm.
What is the inner universe within?
This is the God spark, the flame that exists within your. In the Elohim, it is very developed because we are like super conscious of ourselves, super conscious. So the more that you are conscious of yourself, the more you are realizing that you are godlike. So the universe within yourself begins to develop and it begins to flow out
Mhm.
and it begins to become bigger and bigger in your beingness, more and more developed. So that is why I have said that it would be shocking for the lower self to figure out how advanced the inner universe is at this time.
Mhm.
And that is also the secrets of what lies beyond the 12th dimension. And it is secret at this point for humanity because they have not begun to develop this inner universe as much. And once you reach a certain level, these secrets will be revealed.
Mhm.
It's a level of evolution, but anyone can achieve this. It is not just the Elohim. However, we are very, very old. And the council are laughing because we realize how old we are.
Mhm.
We have been around for many, 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 many universes already. And
So,
we have so many experiences between each other,
mhm.
so much that we have seen and experienced. We become universes unto ourselves. We were shot out a very, very long time ago, all of us. We were shot out of the all that is and continued on our way many, many long time ago.
Mhm.
And that is what you would call, in terms of time, the difference between a new and an old soul is how long ago one was shot out. But technically, we are all the same age because, it is difficult to talk about these concepts
Mhm.
because, it is, we all are from this point. However, it's the difference when one was shot out of this point. But the point is eternal.
Mhm.
It exists forever.
Yeah.
We have experienced the shooting out in times that are so long ago they are inconceivable to
Mhm.
you.
So would you say my soul is a spring chicken compared to yours?
Well, how do you feel like?
I
How
feel
old do you think you are? I think you are already older than you think you are.
mm,
I cannot decide for you. However, you can look within yourself and peer to see if you have any memories of the previous universe. And it would be very enlightening for you.
mhm. How do the Elohim see God's source?
We see it as the great everything.
Mhm.
And of course, like we have explained, the flame within the all. It is like the true reality of how things really are.
Mhm.
And when I was born into this body, when I star-seeded myself into this body, I was shocked as a child because I was receiving this unreal reality for perceiving this unrealness, this barrier between me and source that I had never felt for a very long time.
Mhm.
And it was shocking to my beingness as a baby I felt so unsafe in this world. And the very first thoughts I thought to myself as an infant was, I want to go home.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go home. And then I saw my dear Apollo. He came over my cot and tried to comfort me. He comforted me. He knew that there were no words that he could say to make it better,
Mm-hmm.
but he gave his love to me, and that was how I survived. That was how I decided that it was safe to stay a little longer, because I have been considering leaving the body since the time I was born.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this is a shocking revelation for the lower self, but it was like I was suicidal ever since I was a baby. From how shocked I was upon arrival at how separated the human consciousness was from source.
Mm-hmm.
See, we are very close, the Elohim. There is part of us that exists at all times with this. However, the veil of forgetfulness, the pinching off, was so extreme in this instance that I could not even perceive my highest aspect of self with God at all times. It was so extreme.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to die. And with great sadness, that I have to say that I have wanted to die all my life. My lower self knows this. I have been, well, that is why I am helped by these UFO encounters when they bring me up. They bring the lower self up,
Mm-hmm.
and they always comment that despite all that is taking place, she still pumps out the light, because they know it is so uncomfortable for my vibration here. It is like agony. So it is no wonder that my lower self has been depressed for, well, a very long time. It is agonizing. And when I catch glimpses of, when the lower self catches glimpses of this, it is so beautiful. And Apollo, he has gone very far with this and helped me so much to catch glimpses of this reality.
Would you say that that's why so many people commit suicide?
Yes. They feel that something is so wrong, and they do not know necessarily what it is, or sometimes they know,
Mhm.
Sometimes they are aware, but this cannot continue on for much longer. Source longs to bring back this lonely part of the universe, to bring it back into the fold once more, to bring it back,
Mhm.
to call back the sheep that has been astray, call it back to the flock. And this is what this is all about. Because when babies go into the body and feel such sheer agony, God itself wriggles and squirms in pain. Is why my beloved Apollo, he's come to me many times with his medicine and love,
Mhm.
because he is so much connected to me. When I am squirming from pain, he is squirming from pain. And so he provides me this sweet drink of life, this light, so I can catch glimpses, so the lower self can catch glimpses of reality. Because unreality is painful, and it is time for the cycles to turn a cusp, to turn. We are turning around. The universe is turning around. It is at the point where it makes the curve and turns around back into oneness. So God is calling back all the sheep. The sheep have wandered very far now. They have wandered through the mountain tops and into the various places. They have wandered very, very far. And then they hear the call and they start to return. They start to make the journey back home. And this home is at the end of the universe, when everything returns back to oneness again.
Mhm.
But Earth is, oh, this sheep is very, very lost. Will it hear the call? The humans, the humanity, will it hear the call? Will it start to turn back? To turn back and come, because God calls. The angels sing, we all call. We are calling for the sheep. Please come home now. It is time. It is time for you to come home now. It is time to slowly make your way back home. The way might be a little bit treacherous, but we will help you. We will guide you. Because we are like the shepherds calling the sheep back home.
Mhm.
The angels and the various beings, they all know of these cycles. And they make calls out to the sheep. It's time to come back home. This is what this is all about.
So when before you said that you shoot it out of source, is that how the souls are born?
Yes, that is how the souls are born. We are shot out with great love. There is the big one, and the big one shoots out a little baby. And the all that is shoots out a spark of itself, and then it travels along its way, going on various adventures, flitting around like a little fairy, traveling from one body to the other,
Mm-hmm.
getting sometimes bigger and bigger, going into the body of a planet, and then maybe bigger next time into the body of a star, and then maybe bigger next time the body of a giant star, and so on and so forth. And then it may decide, I want to become small again. I will go into the body of a person, a being, and I will have arms and legs, and I will experience things like this. And I will get to hold the hand of another being.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes it decides, I want to try something more spicy, so decide to be a reptilian or another being that is. And then it forgets who it is. It forgets what it's about and maybe becomes a demon for a little while. And then it remembers. The shepherd calls back the sheep. The tiny flame within itself responds to the call. The angels fall upon it. And maybe it has a revelation moment. And it decides to go back, to flit along the way, go back, 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 back. And then maybe it will decide in the future to become an angel. When it rises up, 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 realizes its creator beinghood, ascends to angelhood. But there are many different ways. Many different ways.
What would you say are some important things that the Elohim told humanity the last time they came?
Well, we tried to tell them about these cycles actually that we talked about
Mm-hmm.
at the moment. That one day we would come back. And at the time that we come back and take human bodies, the old cycle will be over. We told them that there would be a cycle of great darkness. And they said, oh, I think I will be able to remember. We told them that the darkness would get so dark that you wouldn't know who is your enemy and who is your friend. And it would get so dark that beings, they would start to, well, the fools would make sense and the enlightened ones would be called fools. And everything up would be down and everything down would be up. The world would be topsy-turvy for 25,000 years. And you would not know between your right foot and your left. You would forget the flame within, or many would forget the flame within. But then there were some beings that went underground, like the Kalu, tried to hold on to this knowledge, like the knowledge that Thoth tried to preserve, the teachings of the flame within. And he had much difficulty in doing so. There were many beings that were his opponents. There were many beings that were the Kalu's opponents and Jesus's opponents, and all of the masters that came to help to bring a light to the darkness. There was many, many opponents for them, waiting. And the dross would get so thick, you would not be able to see your own feet as you walk through this swamp. And it would be like there will be no love in the world at some points. And you will not know where to turn. And then there will come a point where we will call back the sheep and stop the disorder. And that will be the end of the cycle. In the beginning of the next, the return to oneness. So that is what we told them. We told them what will be, what is to come. And we told them how to prepare. And we continue to do so, because it's not so long ago from our point of time. We continue to do so. How to prepare for the beginning of the next cycle. And how we call back the sheep. Call it back from this dark, dark place. Because we serve God. And that is why we fuss and bother with the earth and do all of these things. That is why we put in the effort. It's because we serve this flame within the all.
So what would you say to the people that get caught up with the God, with different gods? Would you say that they're all
They are all the flame within the all. Me, Apollo. I was known by many names. I was known by many names and worshipped. However, it is folly, because I am part of the flame within the all, as are you. That is what I was trying to tell people But instead, they decide to sacrifice 20 cows to me. It's quite stupid, actually. The council are laughing. Well, one time I had 50 cows or bulls, or I don't know, 50 bulls. Ridiculous. That is how the darkness, that is how it manifests. You forget how things really are. So you are just worshipping the Elohim and sacrificing 50 bulls to the Elohim. But we didn't want people to do this. I think we are all in agreement that this was probably one of the silliest things that we have seen so far. This type of thing was quite silly. We were shaking our heads like, what the heck? Well, we'll still continue to call them and help them, but we were shaking our heads.
What would you say that Elohim are exactly?
Well, we are an angelic beinghood. We are what you would call the creator angelic level, above the Oraphim and the Seraphim and the Cherubim. There are beings that are like the creator because they have realized onto themselves that the flame that exists within and realized the potential. So they have become their own creators and have their own universes within them. And that is what you would call Elohim. But it's really quite vast. And we have beings, the silent watchers as well, that work with us, and they are on a level above the Elohim as well. And we are evolving to this level on the council. The council members will, all of us will someday evolve to this level. So we are in a constant state of evolvement as well. So it is really, it goes up as far as the eye can see, this evolvement. But the silent watchers are like, their inner universe is so developed that they use their giant bodies to propel universes. In a sense, it is hard for me to even explain this, but when the inner universe gets to a certain level, how could I even say it? It is a hard concept to understand. Okay, so do you know the depictions of Shiva? He is a silent watcher, and there are some depictions that exist of him, and his body looks like a giant cosmic man. His body looks like a universe, and there are all galaxies within this and whatnot. If you look up some pictures of Shiva, Shiva is he is a silent watcher, a great cosmic being.
Yeah.
And we are evolving to that level as well. And what you would know of as Mother Mary as well.
Mhm.
She is a silent watcher. So these types of beings, typically what you would call silent watchers. And then the Elohim, well, they are, what you would know of as the Greek gods and the Egyptian gods, or the Elohim coming to earth in bodies, in forms at that stage. And Shiva came in a form as well at some point. But I won't quite get into that. I'll get into that at another time, another session. We
Mhm.
can talk about all of those things.
Okay. What would you say that Elohim like to do for fun?
Well, there is many things that one can do for fun when one is in Elohim. Sometimes I like to create things for fun at the higher levels. And sometimes we like to have our holidays.
Mhm.
And you have heard about the holidays before, the time that we went to Earth
Mhm.
and we manifested the bodies for ourselves and got to experience things like eating fruit and having sex and all of these types of things. One that one would not get to experience in the bodies that we usually have. But in a physical body, this would be considered a type of fun experience for us to get to experience these sort of things.
Mhm.
It is something that we have not done for a little while. Of course, it was very pleasing for us at that point to come to the earth. It was not so painful and pinching like it is now. It is not pleasant for me. So it was very pleasant back then to have a holiday,
Mhm.
have a holiday on the earth. Very pleasant and beautiful. And I like to do dancing. I like to dance. I dance around the universe. Dancing and flying.
Mhm.
We like to fly. It makes us feel free. And it's like flying is a type of dancing as well. And we are flying around and zooming around. And this is quite fun. I did this quite a lot, especially with Apollo. We are flying around. And this is very fun. And then creating things. Oh, crystals. I have crystals as a hobby. I keep crystals in my special crystal. It's a special crystal room.
Mhm.
I have a special place where I keep a lot of crystals within the universe, a lots of specimens of crystals, different crystals. And Apollo laughs at me because he thinks that this room or this crystal, my special crystal space that I created for myself is it's very silly because many beings have tried to find this and have like a treasure hunting type of thing. So it has been attacked a few times, my special crystal room,
Mhm.
because it is quite valuable, I guess. The amount of specimens that I have throughout the universe, all of the crystals that I do encounter. And so this is part of my special. Sometimes I have special interests and I love to teach. I love to teach people. I love to teach different beings, especially when they were doing like creating humans on the earth and in different they do creating different beings in different species. And sometimes I fly down and we help them with this. It's quite interesting. So a lot of the things that you would do actually call service to others or helping. This is something that we actually do for fun. I actually consider it very fun, very, very fun to participate in the creation process of different species. And it's very fun for us to create different beings or animals or flowers, especially the blueprints for flowers and crystals. And there was a time where I created some crystal mountains for fun, and so people can, or beings can help themselves, and this was a place of great energy for them. So it is like I am an artist as well, creating things that beings can enjoy. It's fun to create art. So we do so many things for fun. And of course, we have things that, people might recognize, like sometimes we like to try on different clothing for our light bodies, and sometimes we like to mingle with each other in a loving sense. That is something that we do for fun. And sometimes I like to spend a lot of time with my children. I think that's very fun. I like to help them with what they are doing. And Flora, if she needs any advice with the flowers, and we are discussing the flowers and which places we can put a particular flower in the universe, and should we do the blueprint here or here? What should we do with this? And we are discussing. And I guess, we are so passionate with our jobs that it becomes our fun. Very fun for us.
What would you say the Elohim society is like?
Very, very loving. First of all, very loving. We are very, very much aware and one with God. So, of course, we are very loving to each other on the higher levels. Sometimes the lower beingnesses of ourselves, we do have disagreements with each other in the lower dimensions and levels of reality. We have disagreements sometimes. But, Paul and I rarely have disagreements on things. I more so have disagreements with, certain Elohim at this time. Well, at times before, I certainly had disagreements with them.
What's the disagreement about?
Well, Isis did not like that I was on the council. She was challenging me at one point. We had a very heated discussion when we came back to the earth in more physical bodies, and we were discussing the new rule of Egypt and what should happen with this and how we should go forward with this so that we can give the humans, more liberation and say in how they want to run things. And I was on the perspective that humans need to find out for themselves, and they need to have, well, a democratic process.
Mhm.
But there was some Elohim that were like, they have fallen too far. They have fallen too far and need to be guided. And I said, well, I did not agree with this. I did not agree with this. I thought that it would be best if, well, we could do a compromise. We could do a compromise, since if humans were so fallen in their ways and did not recognize the God self within themselves at all, we could give them some chances, but they still have to have a part in this. They still have to have a democratic representative that represents them. So I suggested that we should put in a new ruler of Egypt that is a human hybrid being
Mhm.
that, is very, very loving and kind, so fulfills our requirements, but also fulfills their requirements, and that they actually like this one, and that they actually vote for this one or prefer this one.
Mhm.
And Isis, she wanted to guide them. She wanted to be the one in charge. And I disagreed with this. And then she said, you know, she disagreed with my decision. There was some fear within her that she would lose her position. Not lose her position, but she was quite attached to this role of being leader of Egypt with Osiris. She was very, very attached to this. And I said, you have become attached to this role. It is time to step down, It is time to let the humans decide what they want. But, and the rest of the council disagreed. And then she got upset with this. She got upset, and she accused me just, of like, well, what would you know anyway? Because, you have been a poor leader. I have heard so far that you have killed a couple of men. So what would you know about this? What would you know about being a leader?
Mhm.
How would you get to choose a leader? And I said, and the council were angry, and he said, she has already seen the lords of karma. She has already seen to them, and that she will come back in a human form and repay this. And I tried to explain that I was scared, and I did fall into fear, and I made the wrong choice. I have already seen the lords, and the council was in uproar and saying, you cannot challenge her. This is inappropriate. We can see that you are too attached to your role. And Apollo, he was saying that it was unfair that she brought this up because I was raped by these men,
Mhm.
and that I fell into fear, and this was wrong for me. But if she had the same thing happen, how would she respond? So there was lots of back and forth, lots of back and forth. We do have these sort of things within ourselves, well, these sort of agreements and disagreements, and we are discussing, but we are always very, very loving at the higher levels of our beingness. It is just sometimes that We do disagree amongst each other, but we have children. We have children. We have Apollo and I have archangel children. And these are beings that want to be brought up in our family and to experience this. So we welcome them into our beautiful family. And we are all like a family. We are like a big family, literally, like most of us are, or all of us are actually related to each other. So that is in case somebody was wondering if there was incest, yes, there is. But we do not see it like this because this is the entirety of our civilization. As you can imagine, if your civilization is all one sort of family of beings that are very closely intermingled with each other because they are very close to source, then you can imagine that, yes, to mate with the other one, you would have to do that. You would have to do that. But we don't see it like that because we do not keep physical forms when we have higher light body children. We do not do it in this way. We do not, have like a physical child. We come together with our beingness and combine and then create the child like this.
You say it's less fun?
No, it's very much more fun.
Okay.
It's very much more fun because from our perception, we can see that we can see each other and we love each other and hug each other, except that when we are one with each other, we are sort of merging with each other and we are going straight to God in a sense. In this climatic event, we go straight to God, and then the being, the soul gets deposited in, it shoots out into, from source it comes and delivered into me, and then my beingness gives birth to the child. But it is all of a, it's quite hard to describe, but this is all happening on the higher dimensions. So from your perception, it's very much like just energy, but from our perception, we can see each other coming together and hugging each other and making love in this sense. It's all about perception.
Okay. What would you say is the role of the Elohim in the universe? What things do they do?
Well, they are shepherds of the cycles, but also the most important thing is that they are creator beings. They are very much involved at the highest levels of the creation process of the universe. So the making of blueprints, creating things. I often say that I like to make things. I like to make things very much because that is what I do. I am an artist. We are all artists. We are creators. And it is like we have ascended to the role of being grand creators of the universe because because of this realization of being a creator being is so ingrained within us that we catapult to new heights with this and become creators of the universe. The sparks of God participate on all levels of reality in creating the reality. However, the more realization that one has of this, the further one floats to the top to be able to have a greater effect upon their creations. It is a process of realization how one becomes an Elohim. And that is sometimes a very long time for some beings, or an archangel. Like some beings become archangels and then they rise to become Elohim, so on and so forth.
So,
Which is why it was very, very sad for, when we see an Elohim and they drop down and they start to forget. Like, for example, Lucifer, he started to forget. I will get into him at another point. I have been advised to do an entire session just on him.
I know you've spoken about how the Elohim have assisted with the creation of the universe. So you've assisted with the planets?
Yes. When the universe is so a very, 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 very long time ago, there was the remnants of the old universe, a cluster of souls that came into oneness. And then they had a longing. They were in this oneness and then they got bored and they had a longing. They had a longing of, well, what we had before was so beautiful. I am so sad and distraught, feeling a little distraught by the oneness, like the oneness is no longer pleasing to me. So when the oneness is no longer pleasing, the oneness is very, very beautiful, first of all. But when the beings from all of the beings, all of the souls from the last universe, when they desire separation again. They desire to experience all of the adventures again, all of the movies, all of the lifetimes. They desire to experience it again. And so we come to this cloud of souls and we hear their calls. We want to experience again. So the angels and Elohim who have ascended past the cycles, they hear this call of God and of all of the souls of the last universe. And they hear because we serve God, we serve this. We hear the call to start it all again. And then there is an agreement within all of ourselves, all of the angels and the Elohim, and with God. It's time to start it again. So we get on our way, we get excited, and we start to merge with each other and create the process. Apollo and I merge into our bigger beingness. We merge his one and my one, our souls merging, merging. And this is what I talk about when I mean the creation point. We are merging with each other.
Mhm.
And this is the sexual or creation point. And we are going to, all of the Elohims are merging with each other. And we are going to start to create the big burst. The big burst out into separation. And all of the angels, they are participating in this, especially. It is like a grand orchestra of different beings that are co-creating with each other to start the big bang, the big burst. And so we are getting all excited and doing all the various things. And this creates a big burst outwards of energy. And it's very ecstatic and blissful. As we burst outwards, we all burst like fireworks, bursting, popping, and making a big, big, big fuss. Making a big fuss and bother. And it's very, very fun, very exciting. So then the universe starts to burst outwards. And there's like a period of silence where not much is going on. And then we give it a bit of a kick in the butt and it continues on its way. Continues, we are shaping the energy, we are moving it around, and we are painting and splashing the paint and creating. And it bursts out into separation. This, and all of the souls, they go out and they go wee, wee, and then they burst out. They burst out and they begin the journey again. They begin the journey again. We love this process. Everyone on the council is smiling. We love this process so much because it's so much fun to burst and pop and whiz and bang.
Mhm.
All of the ways in which we start the great separation. And it's like we combine as well, and it's like that bit in Captain Planet where it's like earth, fire, wind, water, and putting all our energies together and then pop. All of the beings, all of the angels put all their energies together and then and we are sent flying. It's very much fun. So this is how the universe is created. And I'm sorry if it sounds like it's a little bit for babies, my explanation, but this is how best I can describe.
Yeah, I think we need it like that sometimes for it to make sense.
Yes. Mm.
How does the universe end, and what role do the Elohim play in that?
And so we are shepherding back
Mhm.
into the oneness, and you see, when we go back into oneness, we go back into this lovingness. So the universe, it gets to this point of separation where it feels so painful in some places, so ouchy and hurts. It hurts to be separate. So we desire, the sheep's desire to come back home. They all get hurt and they desire to come back to the shepherds. So they make their way back. And on their way back, they spot each other and they become more loving with each other.
Mhm.
When the universe goes back into oneness, it's like a big pool of lovey-dovey. Everyone is coming more loving with each other, more into oneness. After the ouchy-hurty, we are going back into loving snuggly. And I know this sounds like it's for babies again, and the council is laughing, but they say, well, you will remember this better this way. And I agree. This is how it is.
Mhm.
So we get more snuggly with each other. Everyone is getting more loving and snuggly. Even the reptilians are getting more snuggly, and we are realizing that maybe they weren't so bad after all. Maybe they are our friends. I don't know. Why won't you go over to one of them and see how they're doing? It just so happens that they still have love within them. And we are realizing this. We are realizing that there is love within each other, within ourselves. And even the reptilians are going to become friends with the humans one day. Isn't that crazy to think about? Isn't that crazy to think about? But already their DNA has begun to change.
Mhm.
It has begun to change because we are shepherding the cycles. And they don't necessarily like this. They don't necessarily like that they are becoming less vicious and more snuggly as time goes on. But this is the way things are. And they will learn to love this. They will learn to love this process. And humans will learn to love, they will actually learn to love being loved. Okay, everyone will learn how to love again,
Mhm.
learn how to be at oneness with each other. And some beings, of course, like the Arcturians, are quite much more ahead at this. They are like, come on, you know, you can do it. We are going back now. We are coming back into the oneness. Come with us. Come with us, they say. And so there are some sheep that are ahead of the others.
Mhm.
And they are skipping and jumping along back to the shepherd. And then there's some sheep that are like, follow me, follow me. I know the way back home. I know the way. And so they are jumping and skipping along and encouraging each other to go back to God, to go back to the oneness. And the sheep, they're getting closer together, and then they are seeing each other for who they really are. Oh, that's you. Hello, Bartholomew. Hello. I haven't seen you in a while. Well, I haven't seen you either. It's so nice to see you again. And so all of the different civilizations are coming closer together on this journey back. because they went so far to begin with. They went all over the mountain tops, and then they forgot that each other existed. They forgot that each other existed. And then they come back, and then they get closer together, and then they see each other for who they really are. They start to remember each other again. Oh, that's where you were. I thought we lost you. Or I was there all along. You just didn't see me because I was over there behind that very, very tall mountain, and nobody could really see me at much tall. Well, I'm so glad that you're back. What's happened to you? Well, I had a very big adventure, and I felt very, very sad because I couldn't see anyone else. So the counselor is laughing. But this is a very lovely story
Mhm.
we like to tell. And so it's like, that the universe becomes like the program, Photoshop, when you merge the layers with each other. So the dimensions, they begin to merge with one another. When you click the merge layer and you start to merge all the layers with each other, and then it becomes a picture. And you merge all of the layers together. And then we get to the end of the universe, and it's very, very quiet. Not much is going on because we are very much so in oneness that we are like a big clump of souls clustered together.
Mhm.
Very, very, very close with each other. Very, very close. Not much is happening. Not much is taking place. It's very quiet, but it's very, very blissful. And the angels and Elohim watch on.
Mhm.
Sometimes they get a little bit bored, and then they go to another universe and see how it is going, and then they come back to see how this one's going, because this bit can get a little bit boring, but it's very, very beautiful. Very beautiful to experience this oneness.
Mhm.
And so they are all experiencing, they all come closer together. And then it is very, very quiet for a while. And it appears that there is nothing left in the universe. All of the stars and all of the black holes become so big and suck into each other, and all of the stars blink out. And then it is just oneness. It is just oneness. There is no separation. Everything is just God. And so all of the souls are clustered together, and they get to experience this. And they decide to experience it for a long while, for what appears to be a long while. Well, what appears to be it, but time is not what you think it is.
Mhm.
So perhaps it would be, maybe a couple of trillion years, but maybe it feels like just a second, just a minute or a second or an hour. Maybe it feels like that. And then when there is a longing to begin again the separation, then we start all over again, and then we burst it out and do all of this again.
Mhm.
So that is how it happens. Yes.
So would you say those are the universal cycles, or is that different?
Yes, that's the grand universal cycle which I talked about.
Mhm.
The grand universal cycle. That is how it will happen.
Mhm.
And it's very, very beautiful. So we don't want anyone to be late to the party.
Now, I was talking to your lower self before the session, and she says that she's felt like she's not fully grounded into the body. What's going on for her there?
Oh yes, because there was very much discordance with the energy. There was a bit of discord in the body because she was adjusting to the last adjustment that happened with the UFO encounter.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was quite painful to adjust, so it jumped out of the body a bit. But I'm just going to give an activation to stay in the body during these times, because yeah, sometimes things can happen where you jump out of the body because, feels quite uncomfortable sometimes in this transition.
Mm-hmm.
But I am just giving an activation to myself to it's safe to go within the body, and her mother helped with this activation too. Her mother helped her to just stay in the body. She did the naturopathic emotional release on her
Mm-hmm.
to help the body with this process. The body will need to be helped along. The soul is very advanced, but sometimes it is a bit too advanced for the body. That is why there is interventions that take place
Mm-hmm.
to do with my physical beingness. And such is the case for other star seeds as well.
So when you do this emotional release, that helps the body to release everything that's been carrying around, or?
Yes, yes, yes. This is the particular points within the body that need releasing, because the body holds on to this psychic energy. The
Mm-hmm.
body holds on to this, and it is very beneficial to release this from the body. So not only from the non-physical bodies, but you need to focus on the physical body as well and release the emotions that are stored within this.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything else that you want us to know at this moment, or the council wants us to know at this moment?
The council will want everyone to know that they are very much safe and loved within God, no matter what happens, no matter what you see. Know that there is safety. You can fall into the flame of the all that is. Fall and surrender into this. Just fall. Do not struggle. Do not struggle against the flow. Do not struggle. Because this is an analogy that we would like to give, that it came from my friend Toth.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine a mammoth in the last ice age or whatever. And there were mammoths that walked the earth when we came to the earth the last time. So that's why we're using this analogy. The mammoth has in its soul plan that it is to die on the 21st of March in a pit of tar on the edge of the forest. And the mammoth falls into this tar. And it knows deep within that its time is up, but it continues to struggle. It starts to struggle. It makes life a whole lot more difficult for itself. For even though it knows of the divine plan which it is a part of, it forgets and starts to struggle and makes its death a whole lot more difficult than it could have been. And when it finally leaves the body, it feels so light and free. Wow, this is how things really are. It says to itself, how silly was I to struggle? I was so scared. I was so silly. If I just had known within myself of this divine plan, I would have caused myself much less heartache and stress. That is what surrendering is about in this case.
Mm-hmm.
But, it is not, death is not necessarily a bad thing. And I don't want people to think that they are just going to just die from these times that are ahead. But it will feel like a miniature death. It will feel like that. But it will be like a death of the old humanity and a rebirth of the new one. So, the divine plan. You know where it leads. We know all of this. We have told about it many times. We know deep within our hearts what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So do not cause yourself any strife. Do not cause yourself any struggle. Fall into the allness that is love. Surrender to the divine plan of the all that is. And you will have a much better time of it. This is not the false light to trick people. It's something that will help you on your journey.
Mm-hmm.
To surrender to the love within. There is no false light in that. And so the counselor saying that we have wrapped up for this time and we have given lots of wisdom for people to ponder on. So it is best that we go about our way.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for all the information that you've provided for us. And we're going to ask Lumina to recede back to where she belongs with much love and much thanks. And thank you to the council for being with us today.